it's a little nicer than my Subaru, I guess. Both imports. All right, what's up guys? Welcome to today's video. We have a very special guest here today, Coach Greg Doucette, who was kind enough to donate to the Evan charity by being part of today's video. I'm gonna take him through a little science-based workout, see if I can teach him some new things, see if I can learn some things from him. We got a full upper day on the menu today.
And so I warned him. I did a big bike race yesterday. I said, go easy on me. So he took out all the leg stuff. And so we're just focusing on upper body. I can't wait to get started.
For my first exercise, I usually like to do like 4 warm-ups.
God, you do 4 more? Yeah, I guess if you're going really heavy. You know what I do right now? 1 warm-up set. Jeez. But I train my whole body every 3 days. So it's not like the old training I used to do. But yeah, for like a bench press, I would do 4 warm-up sets before going really heavy.
Okay, well, we'll see if I can go moderately heavy today. I don't think I'm strong enough to go really heavy.
It's heavy is relative. Yeah. I only lift about 2/3 what I used to be able to lift, but it doesn't matter. I think I've done this exercise 3 times in the last several years.
Damn.
I only do machines essentially now. What's hard for me is I had a major cycling accident. I ripped the tricep off the bone, and so it's very, very weak. My left arm is hard. Like from here to here, I can barely straighten out my arm even with no weight. So like the right arm, it feels like a joke, like to do this. It's like I could do 100 reps without problem. Yeah. But here, it's like very difficult. So it feels okay, but I may actually not be able to completely finish the set. Ugh. I actually had 2 separate bike accidents. So this is 1 surgery and another surgery, 2 separate bike accidents. And so for me, when I do any tricep exercise, to straighten out my arm, I can barely contract it. There's hardly any kind of strength, and I've lost half the muscle in my tricep. So I usually do machines. That way I can kind of push harder on this side, and the machine goes up together. When I do like 1 arm at a time, it's a lot harder.
I just like to do free weight movements, if I'm gonna do them at all, early in the session, so that I'm not tired and I can coordinate the movement better.
What are your thoughts on pausing at the bottom here? Pausing versus just a touch and go.
So, with a movement like a dumbbell press or any press where there is tension at the bottom, I think it makes a little bit of sense to just at least have control down there, because you don't want to be cheating or bouncing, and you want to maintain control where the muscle is in the most where it's experiencing the most tension. And a pause is good because it means that the weight you are moving is entirely because you have the strength to move it, rather than utilizing the stretch reflex a little bit.
Yeah. And so one thing I did with bench pressing was I always paused at the bottom, because I've seen so many guys tear their pecs, and I'm like, I gotta stop ego lifting, because every now and then I do the touch and go bounce set, and I feel a little bit of a twinge. It's like, I don't want to be one of those guys, so I kind of left my ego at the door, and I paused everything, because I just don't want to get hurt.
No, I agree. I was actually gonna ask you what you think a common mistake for beginners is. And I would say ego lifting.
Absolutely. Trying to think that the heavier the weight and the fewer the reps, the more muscle you're gonna get. Most people think heavier weights, lower reps, you're gonna build more muscle, and then higher rates, it's for toning, but it's like, it's not the way. We all know that you can build just as much muscle doing higher rep sets, 15, 20, as you can from, for example, doing 3 to 5.
Yeah, and regardless of what rep range you're doing, like, you have to make sure you are ensuring control, because like you said, risk factor, and then also just because that's the way you're going to make sure that the muscle is doing the work and not other muscles or physics or stretch reflex or you're bouncing around or whatever. So I
absolutely
agree.
We're talking about women's bikini. We got a women's amateur competitor. She looks phenomenal, but to me, way too lean for what we need to look for in women's bikini. We need to bring back femininity. It shouldn't be whoever's the leanest, the hardest, the grainiest that's winning these shows, but the way it's going right now, I feel like bikini is doomed. We need to do something about it.
What's your thoughts on that?
I'm not going to have any thoughts on that, because I'm not educated enough in the world of competitive bodybuilding to have an informed opinion, so I'll concede to Greg on that one.
Now remember, my opinion means nothing because I'm no longer a judge. You know, I only judged for, 20 years, but now I'm not allowed to be a judge because I actually have an opinion, and I would say a good one. Are you with me? Do you want to see striated girls that look like Coach Greg on stage, or you want to bring femininity back?
I've been dealing with some injuries, and I'm trying to stay at maintenance because obviously if you're trying to heal an injury, you want to have enough calories and nutrients to facilitate healing. But I can't push training very hard, so I don't want to be in a surplus because I don't want to just be in a surplus and get fat for no reason. So I'm trying to.
So when I'm injured, I focus on more body parts are not injured, and I focus more on the cardio. Like if you thought like maybe I'll do more of a cardio routine for the next month or so and just kind of maintain my current body by doing like maybe a third of the volume.
Yeah, I definitely, in my last couple of videos I've been talking about this, is trying to just train the body parts that are hurt with exercise that don't hurt them, and just do my best to maintain. And then just keep training everything else the same. Because if my chest isn't injured or my shoulders are fine, and it's just my elbow, well then I can still train chest and shoulders, and I can still make progress there. And just try not to push that too hard.
I've had a number of injuries throughout my life, from torn muscles, broken bones. I've never taken more than a week off ever. I always train what's good. Like when I had a hip operation, I came here, I was at this exact gym 3 days later on crutches, and I was training the left leg. And I was just riding the bike with one leg if I had to. If I had this arm in a sling, I'm doing the left arm only, and there's always something you can do. Never give up.
And the research actually shows if you have an injured left leg or an injured, like, say you can't train your left quad, if you train the other side, it's called cross-education. And the nervous system actually allocates nutrients to the other side. So if you train the uninjured side, it rehabs the injured, or retains more muscle on the injured side, which is super interesting.
It's funny, the first time I ever learned that was in university, and this is going back 700 years because I'm so old, but like literally I remember listening in exercise physiology class and learning about this cross-education and being like, oh, so if I ever hurt my right ankle, I'm doing my left leg, and I never stopped. Oh, okay.
There we go, flying.
Man, that left arm sucks. Maybe I'll just do this side.
Okay.
We'll do that cross innervation or cross education. So I'm working around the injury. A lot of people just say, oh, I'm not going to train. I'm just going to give up. Well, I found a way. I do machines, and it allows me to keep pushing both sides while still having good technique.
That's what I was going to say too. Like the fact that your chest and shoulders are so still evenly developed, despite not being able to train as hard on the left side. That just demonstrates what we're talking about right there. But I'll take it.
Now, do you ever lift heavier than that or fewer reps than 5? Because my personal opinion is 5 is on the very heavy side of things, and you're more likely to get injured doing, say, the 100s for 5 than, let's say, the 80s for 12. And so what is your opinion on that? Should you actually go that heavy? Is it beneficial? What do you think?
Basically, we know that as long as you take a muscle close to failure, that's what triggers growth. And so you can get similar growth with higher reps and lower reps, although there have been a couple studies that show better growth with lower reps. And that's just because if it's generally the last 5 reps before failure that generate growth. And that's just due to motor unit recruitment increasing toward the end of a set. But if you start with a weight that you can only do 5 or 6 reps with, then you're close to failure right away.
Absolutely.
So you're reducing fatigue because you don't have to do all that junk volume, those first 5 reps. Like let's say you do a set of 10, only the last 5 reps are going to create growth. And so if I do 10 reps, the first 5 aren't doing anything. So it's just taking me longer to get to those last 5. But if you're injured, or you're scared, or not scared, but you want to be careful, then moderate reps, say 5, or like 8 to 10, 8 to 12, is going to be safer. You're going to have more control. It'll teach you the movement, the motor pattern better. So there's benefits to both. I would say if you're not worried about being injured and you can do the movement really well, there's a lot of practice with it, I would say I generally like to train in the 4 to 8 rep range.
Okay. Yeah, everything you're saying makes perfect sense, and I would say the only thing is, like, what if you get hurt from doing that? But you're not ego lifting. Even though it was heavy, you didn't cheat to get that last rep. It was hard, but you kept good form. And so if you do want to lift heavy, you got to lift like this guy. You got to lift very safely. Don't just throw the weight up and say, I need to get this rep. But if you don't know what you're doing so much, better to play it safe and maybe go with a bit lighter weights.
I agree, and usually anyone who's watched my channel before knows I generally lift with more control than that, but I just want to show off because I'm with Coach Greg.
There you go.
Greg, as a extremely successful YouTuber, what piece of advice would you give to other people who, like myself, for example, full disclosure, I'm just trying to get some free game from them, but what piece of advice would you give to other YouTubers who are trying to grow their channel?
Well, I think what people are doing is they're worrying too much about being perfect, and so they're spending all week on that one great video rather than just spending, say, an hour and making a video every single day. I think the less you worry about being perfect and the more you just put out content every single day, the more chance something's gonna go viral. And also, people like the mistakes. Like, if I actually say somebody's name wrong or I make a mistake, it makes you more relatable. And so rather than being that perfect person on camera, you're better off just being yourself and putting out videos every single day. And so my advice, just get at it, post, don't worry about if it's perfect, and just get one every single day on either YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Bilibili, wherever.
Cool. All right, so a little more of a quantity over quality approach. Obviously, don't completely trash the quality, but focus more on reps, getting better with practice.
Yeah, I think people overthink things, and they're like, this isn't good enough, and they'll retake it 100 times. It's like, take 1 or 2 takes and just go and hope for the best.
Cool. Right on. Ready to hear first, folks?
We're up on this exercise, and because I have one weaker arm than the other, I actually have more weight on this side than the other. And for me, I like going through a full range of motion as much as possible, a deep stretch at the bottom. Guy like Sam Sulek, he's more into like the partials. I don't know if you've seen his training, but he likes to start off a bit higher. He doesn't like that deep stretch, but for me, I feel like the deep stretch is really that long length partial range of motion. That's really gonna build muscle, especially the research lately. What are your feelings on that? Do you think it'd be better to start like higher from the ground and basically push here? Or is it better to get a full stretch down and then press up?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the person in the sense that if you have the mobility to go deep, then you should. If you don't have the mobility to go deep, then obviously don't do that. But don't force it too hard, because the further that the humerus goes back in extension, the shorter the muscles in the back get. So around the scapula and around the humerus up here that attach to the shoulder and stuff, and the shoulder blade. And if those muscles get too short, then they can't actually produce any force to stabilize. And so you're actually going to lose a little bit of motor unit recruitment and force for the chest if you don't have the stability in the back. But that's only if you're forcing it too much.
And so in other words, you're saying don't stretch so far that you're losing all your strength, but to get a decent stretch depending on your own range of motion, enough so that maybe you're leaving your ego at the door a little bit, but not so much that you only got like a plate on each side.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, a lot of that long length partial research is done on a select few group of muscles, and a lot of the data doesn't suggest that it applies to all muscles. So it applies to like legs, chest a little bit. It applies to like quads for sure, hamstrings for sure, glutes and adductors, and the calves for sure. But a lot of the upper body muscles don't seem to benefit either at all or not nearly as much from that stretch.
Okay, so for example, if I'm doing lats, if I get that deep stretch at the top, that might not be as effective as stopping perhaps shy of the stretch.
Exactly, the lats actually have their best leverage like lower down. And so with a lat pull down, for example, you don't really need to focus too much on the stretch up here, because especially in the sagittal plane, but even in the frontal plane a little bit too, if you go up too high, the muscles that are actually going to bring the arm down are the lower pec and the triceps. And so with something like a lat pull down, it's not that important to go into the stretch.
And so you can see just how complicated the research is. Like one is better for one muscle, something's better for a different muscle, and so a lot to take in.
Yeah, and of course, research is always progressing, so nothing's set in stone.
Yeah, but what we do know the research just says is to train harder than last time, which is progressive overload.
Exactly, that I agree with you 100%.
All right.
Go, Greg. Nice. For another one.
Failure.
Here we go. I don't
So
know, is that harder than last time?
So that's still like a top end hard set. Like even though you're kind of feeling for what weight you could get for maybe 4 to 8, that's still as hard as you could go.
Yeah, and the other thing, because we're taking a little bit longer breaks, I just opted to go a little bit lighter weight, just so that, you know, I don't want to get hurt, stuff like that.
Sure.
I think usually on this machine I'll do 4 and a bit, or like 5 to 7. But yeah, just because, like I said, we're a little bit longer rest periods, we're a little lighter, get a little bit more of a pump, so I can look good next to Coach Greg.